Hello everyone. So this video I will be explaining the solo Raphael fight. To explain every process as well as my build, as well as how you what choices I go with the build. Okay, so for the Eldritch Blast build, you could either start with Fighter or Sorcerer. The only difference is Fighter you can get heavy armor, but heavy and medium armor, but you don't really wear medium or heavy for the build. So the only difference between those two is really just the skills proficiency. Since Sorcerer, you could get more of magic side of the utilities, whereas Fighter, you get athletic, acrobatics, and stuff. But the reason you want to start with either Fighter or Sorcerer for that Eldritch Blast build is because they both have Constitution proficiency, and most of the time you want to maintain your concentration skill, concentration spell. So that's why you either pick Fighter or Sorcerer depending on what skills proficiency you want. Okay. So I went with Fighter first. Doesn't matter. You could go Fighter or you could go Sorcerer first. My choice for the build is Defense. Abilities is full Charisma, and your second is Dexterities. So full Charisma, because you could get the +1 from anti-FO. Or if you did not get +1 from anti-FO, you could also get +1 from the Loss of Mirror in Act 3. So always, this also because this is your main character, if this is what you're playing as your main character. But either way, always have your Charisma at 17 for the Eldritch Blast build. Second is Dexterity. Because we are not wearing medium or heavy armor, therefore the extra point of Dex is gonna help us a lot. It will give us an extra initiative, and it will also give us an extra AC. Because with this build, you are extremely squishy. Okay. And the rest you can just go with whatever, but mainly Constitution. So you could just get your Constitution up like that. This is usually how I go with my build. Max Charisma, secondary Dex, and 14 on Constitution. And skills, proficiencies, you could just go with whatever you want. It's just personal preference. But most of the time, I also like to have either athletic or acrobatic, just because there are times most of the time in the games, some enemies will try to shove you off. But you don't see that often later on. But just saying, acrobatic and athletic could be useful earlier on. But other than that, the skills is just personal preference. So okay. Then we go on to Fighter again for the action surge. Then for the sake of the Raphael video, I did not use my usual build. I used the Raphael fight specific build, which normally I would stay in fighter for another level, but in that video, the build I only use fighter level 2. Then I multi-class into Warlock for the obvious Algi's Blast. The other skills, the other cantrip, you can use whatever you want. Doesn't matter. So it's just personal preference. You could use friends for more dialogue preference to make it easier for your dialogue. Then for subclass, I go with the old one. Because this build you will be critting quite often, and whenever you crit, you just make enemy frightened. So that's pretty useful. The other two they're just not useful. So, because the Fiend, this will give you 4 temporary hit point. You already will get this from Bloodlust Elixir. So this is obsolete. Basically, it's useless. So you go with the old one. Algi's Blast as your cantrip. That's a must. For a spell, early on you could get haste, and I like to have hellish rebuke as well. It's decent damage, I suppose, but spells wise, you could also go with whatever you want. Then the important level of Warlock is you take Agonizing Blast. This is a must. The second point, you could do whatever you want actually, but most people go with Repelling Blast, so I'm gonna go with that as well. Spell here, doesn't matter what you take. You could take Acapdine or other stuff, doesn't matter. Then we multi-class once again into Sorcerer. We multi-class into Draconic Bloodline. Even though they already nerf the spell Sparkler, that's why we are using different weapons. We are no longer using spell Sparkler and the Marco Heskier, the legendary staff. But we are still taking Draconic Bloodline, just because the other two is not useful. Well, you could use Storm Sorcerer, but that's wasting a bonus action, so the other two is not as useful. So you go with Dragon Ancestor. Doesn't matter what you pick, just pick one you think that's cool, I suppose. Like, pick one that you think might help you the most. I usually like to go with the fire one, so that I get this guy's self, just for dialogues purposes, or talk with the dead purposes. Okay. Then cantrip, light is mandatory, even though not really, but take light, and the other cantrip you could do whatever you want. Okay, and for spells, shield is mandatory. Other than that, take whatever you want. Usually Chromatic Orb is pretty useful, but you could also take Magic Missiles as well, which that's part of my other video, the other solo version. So I guess for the sake of the other version, we'll take Magic Missile. Okay. Next level, we are still in Sorcerer. We're taking Twin Spell, and you could take either Distant or Extended, but I prefer distant, before you can get the tap hole power, distant is slightly better in terms that this will work with the what's that spell called? Let me see. Is it in here? No, it's not in here. The spell where you can blink to another place. You could use distance spell to blink even further. So I always like to take distance spell over extended spell here. Same thing. Doesn't matter what you take here. You could take chromatic orb. It's pretty useful most of the time. Okay, then level 3 sorcerer. This is the bread and butter of the build, cooking spell. So it'll take 3 sorcerer points, but we can now cast spells as bonus action. There we go, Misty Step. So the distant meta magic can allow you to cast Misty Step even further. So I prefer this distant meta magic better. So we take that. And while we're at level 4, while we're at level 3 sorcerer, we might as well take the last level of sorcerer here to get the feat. So the feat I'm getting is ability improvement. Spell, you could take whatever you want. Cantrip, you could take whatever you want. Now we will be multiclassing into rogue, and the reason for that is here skills proficiency, take whatever you want. Take whatever helps you to play throughout your playthrough. Okay, level 2, nothing special. We are multiclassing into rogue just because of this subclass, thief. You gain an additional bonus action per turn. So that's big damage right there. And just as the last level of rogue, I forgot that in Raphael fight, if you start off invisible, you could surprise the enemy. So for this last part, you don't need to take alert. Usually I take alert on this character on another build. That's because you're really slow in initiative with only 16 dex, so that's only +3 initiative. Most of the time you are kind of behind and enemies will go before you, so I usually like to take alert on the other build, but this build is specifically for Raphael. But at the time when I recorded the fight, I forgot that you don't need this feat. So in terms of you could take alert, but you could also take the spell sniper. So this is part of the build for critical hits. But for the sake of the same build and same skills I took, I'll be taking alert here. Okay, so that's what I have for the build in the video. And usually I would be using this hat instead, the birthright hat. And because I'm not wearing armor, the bone spike boots would work. But I forgot that the helmet of grid is an armor. So in that fight, the boot is practically useless. But you could replace the boot with the evasive shoes. It helps, but not necessary. So you could wear this if you want to. But for the sake of the video, I will be repeat the same mistake. So this shoes is replaceable for that Raphael build specifically. The ring slot, those are straightforward. Risky ring, you get guarantee advantage. You just kill things before they hit you. That's pretty much it. Then the amulet, you get from the House of Hope. Callous Glow Ring, straightforward, just extra 2 radiant damage. Okay. Alright. And so this is the solo video. So right at the start, with this build you don't really have enough sorcerer points. So this is what I'm doing at the start to create sorcerer points from spell slots. Because in order to use the cooking spells, you need sorcerer points. You need 3 sorcerer points. So I was playing safe. I try to convert all the sorcerer points. Well, I convert all the spell slots into sorcerer points. And as you can see, those are the swaps I did. The staff, the amulet, and the other amulet. And this is dropping those smoke powder bomb is for the helmet. It's for the helmet grid, because that helmet would only work if your HP is lower than 50%. So over here you can see the bottom left, there is a new buff that shows up. Says extra bonus action, and you could see that my character now has 3. 1 from the base, and 1 from Thief subclass, and now the 1 from the helmet. And you see that I casted light. That's for the Callous Glow ring, but apparently in the game it's kind of buggy, so that you don't really need light to trigger the 2 radiant damage. But I suppose, I'm just explaining why I cast light. So over here I kind of hesitated a little bit because I was worried if I did not use all my stuff correctly, since this is the first video, and I was correct. I forgot to use Bloodlust Potion. Then going back, after I used Bloodlust Potion, I used the Mirror Image. The Mirror Image is pretty useful because it allows you to tank 3 hits. Each image increase your AC, so that's very useful. And next up is I swapped to Follow Allure, because in the current state of the game, this sword is still bugged. And by bugged, I mean that it's supposed to not continue to work after you swap out the sword. But right now, it still works. So, many of you ask where the thunder damage is coming from. It's coming from swapping the Vala Alua sword, specifically Shriek. So whenever an enemy take damage within that proximity, it will take another 1d4 thunder damage. So I cast Shriek and I swap back to my 2 weapons. And here I casted 3 Ghoul. The Ghoul, you get the Ghoul from completing the Necromancy of Day, which you have to start from Act 1 from getting the book, and you finish it at Act 3. You have to go to the Sorcerer Sunday and read a book to help you to understand the Necromancy of Day, and once you understand it, you can summon up to 4 Ghoul. And here I use Eldritch Blast to kill up the 3 Ghouls, so that it feeds the Sword of Rhapsody. And at this point, I chuck the Speed Potion and the Invisible Potion. The Speed Potion for the obvious extra bonus actions. I mean, not bonus action, for the extra action. Sorry. And the Invisible Potion, it's so that when you start the fight, you will surprise the enemy. Meaning, they will not do anything for the first turn, which you can see here that after the dialogue finish, you have to immediately trigger turn-based mode. Otherwise, your buff is gonna run out. So you enter turn-based mode. The next thing I will do is cast the whatever that buff is called. It's one of your tadpole power that it'll make an creature vulnerable to all damage. Okay, so that's the point of the Invisible Potion, is that whenever you make an action or bonus action coming out of invisibility, the enemies will be surprised, unless they have a feat that allow them to not get surprised. And so over here you can see that Yuji surprisingly has higher initiative than I do, even though I have alert. And you could see that was the value of mirror image, because without it you would be so squishy. Then over here, we don't have high level spell slots, so that's why I am using a scroll. It's kind of like cheating, but you know, scrolls exist, so you know, it's part of the game. So you cast Whole Monster. That will allow anyone within the proximity of 3 meters of the enemies have 100% hit rate. That means you will no longer miss your attack if you're within 3 meters. And most importantly, every hit will be critical within that 3 meters. So you could see this insane damage of force damage as well as thunder damage. The Valor Allure is definitely too OP. I am expecting them to fully fix Valor Allure next patch, so that if you swap the sword, the effect will be gone. Okay. Okay. So in the other video, some of you are not sure why I have so many actions and why Astarion can still shoot when I ran out of actions. So, so you always start with Pearlius Stake. That's the skill to make enemy vulnerable. So I want to clarify by saying that the reason he could shoot without actions is that my build for Astarion is, well, for this build specifically, is 12 level into fighters. And fighters you can shoot 3 times per actions. Okay? And then I cast Mind Sanctuary. What Mind Sanctuary does is it allows you to use action and bonus action interchangeably. So that means all my bonus actions now consider as action, as long as I'm in this bubble of Mind Sanctuary. So let's fast forward. So here I use my last actions. I still have 2 more extra attack. 1 more extra attack. So now, because I'm still in Mind Sanctuary, you can see that I used up that 1 bonus attack, and that counted as an action. So that's how I got that's how I could shoot almost infinite. So yeah, I hope you find this video helpful in regards to explaining the builds and what's going on in the video. Yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.